Hi there, this is Sid and today we shall solve a SQL problem from StrataScratch. The title of the problem is Share of Loan Balance. It's listed as a medium difficulty problem in StrataScratch and the ID of the problem is 2001. We shall start off with the input table. The input table looks like this. It has a unique ID column, a balance column which shows how much the balance of each loan is, the interest rate column which mentions the interest charged for the balance, and then a rate type column which specifies whether the interest rate is fixed or it can vary with time. And then we have a loan ID column which uniquely identifies each loan. And what the SQL problem is asking us to do is it wants us to add one more column which will show what percentage each loan's balance is as a fraction of the total balance of all loans of that same type. A little difficult, but let's go to Excel and see that we understand the problem correctly. So this is our input table that I have copied over from StrataScratch. And this is an intermediate table that I have created to help us understand the problem better. Now you see right off the bat that I have used two shades of color, a light blue and a light green. And those are used to identify whether a loan has a rate type fixed or a rate type variable. Right? Now, what we are supposed to do is we are supposed to find out, say for example, for the loan ID 4, which has a balance of 12,727.52, what that balance is as a ratio of the total balance of all loans that belong to that same rate type category. That is, that belong to the fixed rate type category. And similarly, for example, for this particular loan, we have to find out what this balance is 5,229.12 as a fraction of all the balances of the loans that have a rate type of variable. So to achieve that, I have created one new column called the total balance column. The total balance column will be constant for each rate type. So for example, for loan ID 4 and loan ID 9, the total balance is calculated by summing over the balances for loan ID 4 and 9. Similarly, for each row which has a rate type variable, the total class balance is constant and it is calculated by summing over all the balances of the loans that have a variable rate type. So that's how this column is derived. And finally, deriving the balance share is very straightforward. It is the ratio of the individual balance divided by the total balance of all the loans that belong to that particular rate type. So it is basically column J divided by column K. And I have multiplied that by 100 to convert it to a percentage. So now that we understand what exactly the problem is asking us to do, let us try to implement this solution in SQL. So I have written the SQL query in Notepad++ because it is much easier on the eyes. So the bulk of the problem solving happens in this line, which adds a new column to the select statement. We have named the new column balance share, and as we can see, it is the balance multiplied by 100 divided by something. So you can readily understand why it is multiplied by 100 so as to convert it to a percentage. So the main thing is to understand what this clause is doing. So it is summing over the balance, but not for all the rows. It is summing over the balance only for those rows which have a rate type which is the same as the rate type of the current row. So the sum function here is a window function and it is acting over not the entire table but individual partitions of that table, and that partition is determined by the rate type column. Let us go back to Excel. So you can think that SQL has taken this entire table, and when it saw this partition by rate type argument inside this over clause, what it did was it conceptually split the table into two subtables, one for the fixed rate type rows and another for the variable rate type rows. And then it summed the balance for each of those two chunks separately. So, to arrive at the sums of the balances for the fixed rate type, it simply added all the rows that belong to the fixed rate type, and to arrive at the balance for the variable rate type, it summed over all the rows that belong to the variable red type. So this is what this window function is doing, and it appears in the denominator. So it takes the balance for each row, divides by this artificially generated quantity that is generated using a window function, and then multiplies it by 100 to convert it to a percentage, calls that new quantity balance share, which is included as one more column in the select clause. So let us now run this query in the StrataScratch editor window and see if it gives us the desired output. So when we run this query, this is the output that we get. And as you can see, the output here agrees with the expected output. So here you have 45.91, and since I have kept up to 3 places of decimal, you have 45.908, but that is the same thing as 45.91. Similarly for loan ID 9, okay, loan ID 9 is not given in the output for some reason. For loan ID 7, it is 45.019, 45.019. For loan ID 5, it is 30.608, 30.608, and so on and so forth. So that's how we solve this problem. I'll keep coming up with more solutions to StrataScratch SQL problems, so do keep watching. So please stay tuned. Thanks again.